My talk is going to be about ancient gods to ancient aliens via science fiction and horror stories. So,
where's that?
Sorry?
Where's that?
Where's that?
Specifically, where is it?
This is a recreation of what happened in history, a documentary thing.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, I gave a note at the end saying where I'll take this from. This is what happened was before World War II happened, Heisenberg had a talk to the Nazis, and he sort of like agreed with them to build the atom bomb. And this is before World War II.
Many German scientists have already left the country, but Heisenberg stays.
Never before I had the honor of addressing a Nobel Prize winner.
What happened after that? Right, so this is from a documentary called In Search of Hitler's Atom Bomb, and this is quite a recent documentary. This documentary, it explains recent documents declassified from Russia have come forward which show that Hitler had the atom bomb, and this is a change from what we used to know. What we used to believe that Hitler didn't have the atom bomb, but from the documents released from Russia, yeah, Hitler had the atom bomb, and the Russians knew about it. So what they were doing was they were testing the atom bomb, and I suppose they didn't really get as far as actually using it for military things, because they had it too late in the war to actually use it.
The land war overtook the events.
Sorry?
The land war was moving too quickly.
Yeah, so...
Im Bericht heißt es:
Unsere zuverlässige Quelle aus Deutschland teilt mit, die Deutschen haben in Thüringen 2 Explosionen mit großer Kraft.
So, next step. So, the program went on to explain that one of the scientists that the Nazis were using was a person called Jacques Bourget. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, it's this person.
Gearbeitet wird, und wenn diese Entwicklung steht, also wenn die gelingt, wird Hitler den Krieg gewinnen.
About the French resistance.
Weitere Dokumente zeugen davon, dass es noch Häftlinge aus Widerstandsreisen die versuchten, Erkenntnisse über Waffenproduktionen an die Alliierten weiterzugeben. Darunter auch Mitglieder der französischen Widerstandsgruppe Marco Polo. Auf einem Dokument wird der Name eines Mannes hervorgehoben. Ihn gilt es, aus dem Konzentrationslager zu befreien. Mit allen Mitteln.
Jacques Bourget.
Als Hauptargument für diese Rettungsaktion wurde angeführt, dass unter diesen Zehntausenden Häftlingen auch der französische Atomexperte Jacques Bourget wäre.
He was one of their experts building the atom bomb, right? And after World War II, he wrote this book. It was called The Morning of the Magicians, and this was published in France in 1960, later translated into English under a different name initially, and this was published before Eric von Däniken did his book on ancient astronauts. It's the famous one about chariots of the gods. So Eric von Däniken got a lot of the ideas from this French person, Jacques Bourget. So in this, he presented a lot of strange things, like what they were using was alchemy. So when they were building the atom bomb, they were using alchemy. It was the ancient science of alchemy. So alchemy is the ancient science, and it seems to come from the word Kemet, an ancient name of Egypt, and so it's alchemy. And this ancient science sort of like evolved into what we know as chemistry. And the idea was to change base metals into gold and find how to live forever with elixir of life and all that sort of thing. So basically it's ancient science evolving into modern science.
The secrets of Paganism. But not all texts that have the potential to hold incredible secrets are ancient. At the beginning of the 20th century, a number of influential texts emerged. Among these was a book by the grand alchemist Paganism, The Mystery of the Cathedrals. It was published in 1926 in Paris, but the author remained in obscurity. Only his apprentices had ever met him, and many believe he may not have existed at all. According to Paganism, some of the greatest alchemic secrets were passed down from ancient Greece and Egypt by means of the Gothic cathedrals, their layout and decorations teeming with hermetic symbols. Paganism focuses on the cathedrals at Bourges and Amiens and Notre Dame in Paris. Supposedly, it's on the facade of Notre Dame where...
So you've got from ancient times people working from the ancient science of alchemy, and then they put the codes into the architecture of these cathedrals and that. So it's sort of like, it's intellectuals.
That's the mathematics of the fourth dimension.
Whatever, you know, I didn't go into complications, I'm just giving a bare outline.
Yeah.
I've got another leaflet. I've got another leaflet, it gets weirder than what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
So it's further than I can deal with. So it's from ancient science, they were putting symbology into architecture of Gothic. That's the way the intellectuals communicated from the ancient times. And the ancient science has evolved into what we know, and they're using it in the atom bomb. So, next. So, if you go back ancient times, you've got the Library of Alexandria, and ancient Egypt was the place of learning. So, that's kind of like you go there for your intellectual education. And so, if you look at something like Jesus, they don't, in the Bible it doesn't tell you his childhood. And sometimes people think, well, he went to Egypt for the continuous education. He's one of these people who was educated in this. And before he then went back to Jerusalem and so forth. He was educated in Egypt, I think. So, having been educated in Egypt, you would have come back as a sorcerer. That's what you would have been known as at the time, an intellectual, knowing your ancient science, you were a sorcerer. So, if you go back to the earliest images of Jesus, this is the images of Jesus, and he's a young man holding a magic wand. So, this is Jesus, he's got his magic wand, and he's not got a beard, and he's raised, I think this person's raising the dead and healing the sick. So, in the Harry Potter film, he's got a wand, you're a wizard, Harry Potter, and Jesus would have been viewed as just another sorcerer from Egypt in his time, from that context, with his magic wand. Right, so this is more images of Jesus in the earliest records we got of it, and he's sort of a wizard being baptised, sort of like magic symbols. So I went to Bulgaria, and I was surprised to see this sort of thing. You've got what is claimed to be this from 4000 BC, and I reckon it's a wizard.
What is that? Is it a stone carving?
No, it's a skeleton.
All right.
So I reckon what they dug up was a wizard. And if you look, he's got this And I reckon that sort of thing is crystal, and I reckon that sort of thing would be the magic wand. And so it goes back a long way. You have a priest or whatever you want to call it, and they've got their magic wand. Another place I went to was Melk Abbey, Austria, and I was surprised to find pagan images at this abbey. So you looked on the ceiling, first one was that's Hercules. So this is supposed to be a Christian abbey, and they're painting pagan symbols. These are all pagan symbols, if I can see. So it's Hercules with, I don't know that's Hydra or the three-headed dog. But Hercules.
Cerberus.
Yeah, Hercules is bashing up another monster sort of thing. So I'm surprised that Christian places would have pagan symbols. And if you look at this one, the pentagram, if you look on the metals on that was an early Christian symbol. So it's now not used by Christians, and it's part of the magic thing, you know, so it's a symbol of magic, but that was an early symbol of the Christians. I think it's supposed to be the man with the two arms out and the two legs. So my sort of guess as to what happened, over hundreds of, taken up from Christianity, over hundreds of years, the pagans converted to Christianity because to them it looked the same sort of thing. The Christians, early Christians were using magic, the pagans were using magic wand, Jesus' magic wand, yeah, all the same sort of thing. But then, over the course of the hundreds of years after that, after the converting all the pagans, the hierarchy of the Christian church, the priests, etc., thought things differently, and they got upset to see paganism still being incorporated into Christianity. And I think that's when they started their witch hunts and so forth, heretics really, where they were trying to purge paganism from Christianity. Christianity, I reckon, in the early times was about magic, alchemy and so forth, and it's sort of like tied into paganism, and they tried to remove that. So it's still left in the architecture, the people who are still going from the pagan type of Christianity. So, going back now, 700 BC, I looked, one of the things I've come across is the Romans, the Romulus and Remus, the legendary twins who were brought up by a wolf, and Romulus was the founder and the first king of Rome. And the next king after him was called Numa, and when you talk about him from the ancient astronauts, they say, oh, he was in communication with the with the aliens. And when you look into the record of what he's saying, he was in partnership with a nymph called Egria, and I think from what they were talking about, she sounded like a medium. So it sounds to me like they were holding seances, so that's Egria. She sounds more like a medium, and this is happening in ancient times. They were having things like seances, and they were communicating with ghosts and other worldly entities. Same as what some people do now. So, next to look at the Greek mythology, and in Greek mythology you've got the Titans. And the leader of the Titans was Kronos, and they had all the other Titans. So, Kronos was the leader, and he was the first generation of Titans, the divine descendants of Uranus, the sky, and Gaia, the earth. He overthrew his father and ruled during a mythological golden age until he was then overthrown by his son Zeus. So you've got the Titans first, and then the Olympians overthrowing the Titans. And the Titans were imprisoned in Tartarus, which we know as hell. So it's Kronos, all father time with his sickle. And that's Zeus with his thunderbolt. Okay, so you've got that in Greek mythology, and in Christianity you've still got the same sort of thing. You've got a war in heaven, and this time it's God casting out Lucifer, and that's supposed to be Lucifer being cast out of heaven. And also in Babylonian mythology you've got this war in heaven where this entity is fighting this dragon type thing. So it seems to be a common theme in mythology where you've got a war in heaven. So the next thing I looked at is in the story of Zeus and Selene, she asked to see Zeus in his true form. And so when Zeus showed himself as he really is, it killed her. She died. And so these Olympians, these gods, they are shapeshifters. They are represented in classical terms as human, but they all seem to be able to change their appearance. Seemingly all Greek and Roman gods were shapeshifters. Some of them change their form more often than others.
Doesn't do that.
Sorry?
That doesn't matter.
Okay, so I think this is a horror person who writes horror stories, and he seemed to pick up on the idea, and his works of horror have been influential. So in his thing, he seems to pick the word Teutonic, which is meaning beneath the earth. So you're talking about two races of extraterrestrials. One have been imprisoned in the earth, and the other is still ruling up in the heavens, sort of thing. And they're shapeshifters. And the famous one he's got is a monster. It's a tentacled monster. And this is sort of like the god that lives under the ground, imprisoned. Tutulu. I don't know if I say that right. So he's picked up on the same sort of thing of the war in heaven, but this time it's aliens. And the aliens are non-human. They can put on the appearance of being human, but really, when you take away that appearance, they're monsters. And so he's written lots of horror stories about this sort of thing. Chitulu's appearance is described as looking like an octopus, a dragon, and a caricature of a human form. So you look at these films, Alien and Prometheus and all the others, and they seem to pick up on the idea of you've got a shape-shifting alien. In that film, that's a shape-shifting alien. And in that film, you've got like giants who are the engineers, the bioengineers, or the genetic engineers who have created the shape-shifting aliens. So you've got this common theme of gods, monsters, and giants and so forth, and it's still going into what we're using now. So that's basically Finn. So, and these are the references for what I got from Search for Hitler's Bomb, and that's in German, unfortunately, with subtitles for English. And that's where it reveals, like Lee's, that Hitler had the atom bomb. So it all gets very weird. Sort of this person, Jack Burger, sort of, yeah, that book, it seemed like, well, people just ignore it, you know. The person didn't seem much of a reputation, but it still seems to be right about the atom bomb there.
There is a school of thought that is quite reasonably well documented. Martin Bormann, who was a true architect of, let's say, Nazism, without going into too many details, actually arranged, he actually arranged for a U-boat to take the heavy water or certain form of materials to the Americans for their atom bomb in the dying months of the war, on the condition that they didn't go looking for him or whatever. That way, that allowed Nazism, as opposed to Germany, to carry on.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say you can go conspiracy theory.
There's also been 3 series on something like Search for Hitler, and the programme Search for Hitler reckons that Hitler might have escaped and went to South America, Argentina, where they managed to get him asylum.
Colonia did
Yeah.
that, and someone who
So-
ended up there.
With the
And there was also a story that the Germans had some incredible inventions, but as I say, the land war took them over, overtook them, and they were just told, throw them all away. And the story of the scientists throwing away crates of blueprints for flying saucers and everything, rather than let them fall into the hands of the Allies.
There's a lot of it seems to come from this book, that they were doing weird things in World War II.
They were.
You know. And it connects to a weird past. Past is weird.
And I will just comment on the first bit. For those of us that managed to hear Tony Thornley's only lecture on the cone of protection around St Paul's, that is based very broadly on a book that's the mathematics of the 4th dimension, in as much as you have a window 3 foot square, and at 40 degrees away you have a window 6 inches square, and sort of quarter of a metre behind that one you have a door 8 foot by 4 foot. That gave some form of, call it radiation, magnified some form of force field, which led to the thing at the shield of St Paul's.